Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our Women in Art and Tech panel. For anybody who's out in the hallway and can hear us, if you'd like to come in, we're going to go ahead and get underway. But I am very pleased to hand it over to our moderator, Sofia Garcia of ArtX Code. You guys are in excellent hands with her, so I'm going to hand it over to you guys, and she's got you.
Okay, amazing. Testing, testing. You guys can hear me? Okay, good. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. The 8th annual Code Art Fest. I cannot believe it's been that long. My name is Sofia Garcia. I am a proud member of the board of directors of Code Art. I was also part of the founding team as the director of education. Again, way back when, almost 10 years ago, which is crazy. But it's just amazing to see how many people have showed up today and just seeing this community grow. So it's an honor to be moderating this Women in Art and Tech panel with these incredible ladies. We have Amaranta Martinez, Ana Maria Caballero, Vitali Saxana, and Ari Valenciano. Amazing. So we're going to be taking a look into the various ways in which art, creativity, and technology all kind of relate to each other, and then some of the insights and takeaways of engaging in this exciting world of art and technology. So to kick it off, I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to introduce themselves. Let's see, where are we going to start? We'll start with Ari. If you want to just kick it off with a little intro.
Sure. Hi. My name is Adi Malenciano. I'm an artist and technologist and also an educator. I teach classes at NYU and love to create merging art and code.
Hi everyone, my name is Mitali Saxena. I'm a local fashion tech founder from Miami. My company uses AI technology to find clothing for women based on their body shape. And thank you. Our mission is to promote body positivity in women, and we make sure that we do that with our technology.
Hi everyone, it's so great to be here. Thank you, Sophia, and Artix Code and Code Art. My name is Ana Maria Caballero, and I'm a Colombian American poet and artist. I'm also a co-founder of a digital poetry gallery called The Verse Verse, and a mom of two that are here with me.
Oh. Hi, my name is Amaranta Martinez. You can find me online as Superama. That's my artistic name. I'm an illustrator, visual artist, and digital AR illustrator.
Amazing. So you can see there's so many different ways in which art and technology relate to each other. We have fashion, art, poetry, and research, and education, of course. And so I kind of wanted to ask you all, what came first for you? Your interest in technology or your interest in art? And Adi, if you want to kick it off.
Art was definitely first thing. It's been everything to me all my life. And I also, but even as a kid, I felt like art and tech could have a really interesting relationship. Even though I didn't see it together, I thought the ability to merge tech and make it supercharge the possibilities of art, of not make it so much that you create something and now it's sort of like a monologue, like you're the one artist and you create something and people interpret it how you've decided, but instead it could be something that people create together. So when you add technology onto art, now it's interactive and people can create art based off your own art. So it started with art definitely, but the idea of how technology could make art even better.
And I know that you're coming more from the fashion side, but and fashion and business. But how would you say, I guess, like creativity and fashion and business all come together? And what was your first spark that made you want to get into that, your industry?
Sure. It was on Fifth Avenue, New York. I used to live in New York, and I saw all the runway models and magazines. They were all size 0, and that bothered me. Uh, my mission was first to create a platform to promote body positivity, to make sure that women don't feel left out on this planet, feeling that you have to look a certain way to be here. Technology kind of came after, so I designed a backend technology that uses algorithms to make sure that the clothes look good on women, just the way they are, not trying to fit them into size 0 clothing, like, making sure they look good in their own body shape. that was the mission. So I would say mission came first, technology came second. I'm an engineer, so I guess that was in my blood.
There you go. And for you, too, I know it's both very specific, but I do want you to get into obviously what came first for you, art or technology, and then afterwards, if you can kind of just get into how has this kind of like affected your practice, engaging both of them together.
For me, it was writing. I've been a lifelong poet. I started writing in middle school, realizing that it was something serious for me back then. And I studied literature in college, and then worked in various communications related fields that employed sort of my writing. But it was through technology that I actually found, I feel, my audience and my joy as a poet and author, because even though I would work really hard to write and craft these poems, submit them, sometimes wait literally a year to hear back from a literary journal, and you would get them published, and then it was almost anticlimactic. It was really lonely and quiet, and there was no celebration. And I grew up in Miami. I'm a Miami girl, and I saw how Art Basel transformed the city and the joy and festival that Art Basel was. And I always wondered why poetry didn't have a place in this celebration, why there were no poems really in museums and art galleries. And so I started turning my poems into really simple little animations that I shared on social media, which is already, technology, of course. And I started finding an audience, starting feeling like people were reading and maybe connecting with others via social media. And then when I read about Web3, it made so much sense for me to transact my poetry. And I feel that the ability to transact poetry right now in a way that reflects its value and reflects its contribution to culture is really revolutionary. And for me, it's given me so much more energy to continue writing and sharing my poetry.
For me, obviously, art. As you can see, I try to be always a walking piece of art. These colors. Well, I've been here in Miami for almost 20 years, so I feel that I belong to the city, even though I was not born here. I have my Latin accent. I feel I'm from Miami, and you can see that in my work. And although I started as an illustrator, drawing, doing murals, that's a very analog Web 2 world. When I came into Web3, I said, oh, I can do this fusion, mix and connect with different people through technology. I mean, if you can see my murals on the street, and you don't know about, anything about technology, that's fine. But then I started creating these AR murals, so then you can interact differently. So you can appreciate art even if you love the technology or not. So they became very exciting for me when I saw people engaging with my art in a different way. It's like a futuristic way, Web3, and all this world that I'm into. So I love mixing both worlds, and that's what I've been trying to do with my art right now.
Amazing. We're going to get into Web3 in just a bit. But before then, I wanted to ask Adi a little bit more about your practice in general and, as an artist, as an educator, and, what are the stories that you're trying to tell? What are the problems that you're trying to solve? Take it away.
As an artist, I think it's I don't know why I'm having a hard time answering that question. It's like just like things I'm exploring. I think for me, I'm really interested in right now, the space that I'm in is very much understanding how we think as humans in ways that are not always how we're taught to think. Like, what is our intuition saying? What is it that we're saying? What are the things that we're thinking when we're not digesting a lot of what other people are saying, and kind of like thinking more of like your own thoughts, and turning that into ways that I can explore that within art. So oftentimes you might see art that is very figurative, like it looks like something you can recognize. It's like a portrait of a person, someone's face. But for me, I'm really interested in what are the worlds that are unseen? What are ways that you might just like experience your spirit and just translate that into pigment onto paper, or from code of creating things that are more of abstraction. I think for me, the exciting part of abstraction is that it allows you to bring whatever your thoughts are into that piece, and you identify different symbols within the art. It doesn't tell you this is what you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to take away from it. So that's one area that I'm really interested in. I think generally when it comes to technology, I'm really interested in what are ways that it can just be a tool, not to, for me as a technologist and an artist, it's not so much thinking about how do I use a specific medium in a way that's most exciting, but it's more of how can I tell the story that I really want to tell, and then think of the technology that best fits that. It's not so much about the technology itself, but it's more of what am I trying to say? And I think oftentimes we kind of can get so excited about the tech that we think more about, oh, I want to use all this fancy code in the libraries, but it's like, but then it takes away from the art. So for me, I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to bridge those worlds together.
Amazing. Natalia, I know that you've already touched on, some of the problems that you're trying to solve, but, what is your, I guess, like dream outcome of what you're doing, and what are you hoping to see come from it?
As far as technology or just the
Like just your project directly, the fashion and AI and how those will interact.
Sure. Going back to what I just said before, the mission is to promote body positivity. So I want overall, I guess the dream would be for women to keep believing in themselves. I'm not saying that women don't, but I want to make sure that it's heard by even young women. I think that problem exists even in younger generation. How social media has been impacting us to look a certain way, and the company was created based off of that. Like, we didn't want to fit people into certain clothes. We wanted to make sure women felt good in their body shape, and I think that's an underlying issue even in, like I said, in younger generation. Like, it could start as early as you're 5 years old or 10 years old. I don't know when kids are using TikTok and Instagram now.
Can you actually take a deeper dive into
Sure.
your product and what it looks like to engage with it, just so we have an idea?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the way it works is it's not for kids, it's for women. But you put in your information about your regular size, like a top size, if you have your bra size, if you have, preferences on patterns that you like, and also things that you don't like in colors, your eyes, there's things that matter. And, we are all beautiful, but we all have skin tone, we all have eye color and hair color. So we take a combination of all the key points that we receive from our clients, and our algorithm basically matches that with clothing that we own. So we have a warehouse in Miami where we keep about 100 brands. So based off of your information, we figure out what kind of silhouette, what kind of print would look good on you, instead of forcing you to wear, a tube top when, you're not supposed to. I mean, it's not that you're not supposed to, but it could be, it could be a better fit if you do like a peplum top. I'm just throwing an example. But yeah, that's the mix of technology with what we're doing in terms of mission.
Okay, very cool. And you're using AI technology.
Absolutely. So
okay,
we
cool.
use machine learning algorithms to. There's a few models that we use that uses the data that we receive. Like I said, knowing information about the clients, and this is for everyone in the United States, so that we don't ship outside of Americas. But we've collected over 3 million data points so far. Based off of that, our accuracy is like over 97% on figuring out like this person should wear those kinds of pants with this kind of top if you live in Minnesota.
Oh, amazing. Okay, wow. Wow, okay. And then shifting gears into the poetry side, literature side, what you would like explain your story of how you got into this, and how you found like this relationship between art and technology. But what are you hoping to see, I guess, like in the next few years with the relationship between the two?
I'm really hoping that by digitizing poetry and by presenting it in the same realm that we're presenting other forms of digital art, we're going to raise conversations about poetry's cultural agency and cultural currency, hopefully sparking the collection of poetry, the exhibition, the curation of poetry in a way that really reflects its contributions to culture.
Amazing. And Amaranta, you're coming in from more, again, the traditional like arts, painting murals and things like this. how are you hoping to kind of like expand your narrative now? You can start talking about a little bit more of the stuff that you're doing with Web3 equity.
Yes.
Please, just
I
jump
love this.
into
I
it,
love
yeah.
this because I belong to a community. I'm not only the artist of this community that onboards women on Web3. I did the NFT collection a year ago where we launched it at the Perez Art Museum, and Major Francis Suarez was there supporting us. Like 500 people came. It was really amazing. Actually, we are having our first year anniversary at the end of the month. I can share the invitation later. But the thing is that this collection was inspired in Julia Tuttle. Julia Tuttle is the only woman in the US that founded a city. You know which city? Miami. Give it up for Miami. It's founded by a woman. How cool is that? And we're here. And of course, this was a huge inspiration for me to make the collection because women, technology, Web3 is like, okay, this is for me. And now I'm an ambassador for this community. We do monthly events where we onboard, like, actually educate women. It's not only networking; the people come to learn. Mitali has come and been a teacher also in one of our meetups. You're all welcome. So it's very exciting for me to to be part of this community that we're actually teaching women and changing lives for for the future. So I'm so proud to be part of it. And it's founded, of course, by a woman. Important to say, by Michelle Labs, that you should Google her. She's super amazing.
Yeah, so Web3 is obviously
Yes, you can applause.
Over the last few years, we've seen this rise of technology obviously take over everything. And at CodeArt, it's been amazing to be able to teach this new generation of girls and how to embrace the creative side of technology and to see themselves, as artists, as technologists. And it's been really cool to see this new frontier of blockchain technology come in and really change the way these girls honestly can see themselves in their own careers. And so I don't know if Adi, if you've worked in blockchain at all, or okay, fine. But I know that these two ladies have, so I do want to give them the opportunity to kind of explain how it's changed their practice and their lives. So if you don't mind, just kind of like touching on what that's been able to do for you in your practice.
I mean, it's really been revolutionary for me. As a poet, I never thought, I would be able to, I never even considered learning skills such as coding, such as AI. And now I actively use this in my practice. So, I'll give you two examples. One example is I wrote a poem. It was published in a journal. And a few months ago, a curator reached out to me and said, "Hey, Anna, we'd love for you to be part of an exhibition opening at, a very sort of iconic New York new media gallery called Bitforms." And I said, "Great, I have this poem that was just published, and I'd like to explore alternative artificial intelligence to visualize it." And so I'm using these programs, for example, Stable Diffusion, which is readily available for anyone to use. And that as a 41-year-old woman, sometimes we think that we're past the age of learning, we're past the age of experimenting, and it's too hard, or I'm just not going to figure it out, And honestly, like, just changing the mindset by being in this Web3 world and seeing people of all ages, of all backgrounds, learning new skills and putting them to use is really inspiring. And I was inspired to learn how to use Stable Diffusion, which is a text-to-image generator. So I use the language of my poem and the connotations of language and the synonyms, and even some words in Spanish. I mixed it in to create the images of a poem that was exhibited at a gallery. As a poet, I would have never imagined that to be possible. And then I've also started to code, but very, very, very much a beginner. I really resonate with what you said, Adi, where it's, I don't have all the tricks, but I know exactly what I want to do. And then the internet is amazing. you really can go on YouTube, and there's no shame in this, and look up, how do I code this? And you can take the tutorials and you can learn how to do it. And it's just as valid as if you've learned how to code when you were 10 years old and have been coding your whole life. So I really just am inspired for spaces like this where I can invite others to take that leap and to think that you're able to learn new tricks and put them to use in your own private practices. Because even if it doesn't manifest as something, like a transaction that brings money or rewards, it's going to bring you so much personal satisfaction and connect you with other people who are doing it.
I love that you said that because a lot of people are scared about learning new things. And sometimes we make up excuses like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't have money. But all these tools are free. They're out there. They're communities like the one I belong to. If you are scared to ask or scared to learn, just reach out to. I'm sure you're gonna find people that are in the same learning curve as you are, and then, like you said, there's no shame in wanting to learn. And from my experience, besides what I said that happened last year, that all this journey started, and I've been able to exhibit my work in so many different countries around the world because it's from your home. It's a digital art, it's digital art, so it can reach any part of the world. And this is what I'm gonna tell you right now. I still can't believe it's gonna happen. And I haven't even posted online because I
You heard
still
it here
cannot
first,
believe.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Breaking news.
Because I really want to inspire other women to create and unleash your creativity, because that's gonna take you far. And it's not only creativity, it's not only about art. It's everywhere. It's coding, it's writing, it's art, it's fashion. So unleashing your creativity is gonna take you very far. So here it is. In December, when I had an exhibition at Art Basel with maybe you know them, Beat Basel. And then they had this exhibition, and then I don't know how they did it, but they selected 222 artists to be part of the first museum in the moon.
Oh, wow.
So a rocket is gonna launch in summer from Cabo Cañaveral, right here, 3 hours from here, and my artwork is going to the moon. It's gonna be there. Woo! And I'm a girl and I'm a Latina, so I'm like double minority. And my English kind of sucks. So if I can do that, you all can do it.
Congratulations. Well, we're here celebrating the community of students and educators and just the whole Code Art crew. And so I do want to touch on more of like everyone's communities here. And if you guys can just touch upon some of the communities you're involved in and the importance of them. And Adi, also if you could talk about Afrotectopia, I think that would be wonderful.
Yes, communities are very important. Even in the last panel or presenter of talking about how so many opportunities came her way because she was a part of a community. Afrotectopia is a community I created when I was a grad student at NYU, and in a program called Interactive Telecommunications Program, ITP. And it's a space where we're blending art and tech together to imagine new worlds. It's a really pioneering and exciting space. And being a student there, felt like I was living in a dream every day. It was just amazing of all the ways that I could combine art and tech together. And it was a lot less intimidating than I thought it was before going in. In high school, I was in the science and tech magnet program and just didn't have the confidence to really get in and do with the engineering. So when I got to this program and the way that it was teaching it through this artistic lens, which resonated with me a lot because as an artist, that's my superpower. So there was a lot of confidence there. It was just exciting. I loved it. And coming from a Black hometown, it felt really important for me to make sure that my friends, when I would go back home and share my work, that they also saw themselves in this and saw that they are capable of doing it too. Being one of the few Black students in the program, it was a big frustration. It felt like every time a professor would bring up an issue and say, let's explore this or interrogate this, they had such a huge blind sight societally of what it means to do that in a space that's racially very different. So it was both a level of excitement, wanting to make sure that other people that look like me and had a similar experience to me could also see themselves in this space. And it was also just a frustration at the world, academia, technology for being so inadequate racially of understanding how to speak to different communities and serve different communities. So after Utopia began as a festival at NYU, my program was immediately very supportive. They gave me the space and anything that they could do to help, and it sold out very shortly after being announced. And then it's continued to be a space that has brought together culture and different forms of activism. It doesn't have to be this traditional martyr kind of activism where you're exhausting yourself or you're in the street protesting, which is important, but there are also other forms of activism where you're imagining new worlds, where it's you as yourself and you're part of this community and you yourself are designing the worlds that you want to live in. So we do a lot of future design. We create these different worlds. The project that we're working on right now is a book that is exploring space life. It's so funny that you're going to the moon because we are exploring ideas of going to extraterrestrial space. MIT Media Lab, they asked me to be a research affiliate. And so usually in those kind of situations, I bring in the work that I'm already working on into these spaces. And Afrotopia, for me, Afrotopia is so much of, I have access to a lot of incredible spaces. Let me make sure that I'm always leaving the door open so that other people that are like me have access too. So I just brought in the work that I'm doing Afrotopia. I got funding from ITP to create this incubator where me and 3 other artists, we worked together for 2 years in researching and building off the research that MIT is doing in space exploration. And then also as we're artists, what can we bring? What ideas do we have? And then culturally, what lens can we look through? And then we designed this whole series of work that imagines space life through this cultural lens. And one person created this idea of created 3D renderings of a spacesuit that thinks very much about the body and about hair, like even black hair and the coils of it. Another person created this cinematic experience printed, so it's not a traditional cinematic experience, but imagining telling the story through 3D rendered images. Another person created this process for shedding, because the book is very much about, we're not seeing space life, the travel to space life, as you're leaving planet Earth and you're going to somewhere else. It's not a traditional form of transportation. It's a interpersonal journey where as you leave space, as you leave planet Earth, you're going through this whole process of how do you unlearn all the ways that we operate on Earth and imagine new ways of being. So Jordan created this workbook on shedding and releasing the norms. And then I'm very interested in plants and botany. So I created the speculative botany 3D rendered images, but then I'm also very interested in pseudoscience. And pseudoscience is a kind of like a make-believe science. It's building off the scientific framework, but I'm using it in an artistic way. So I created these plants and then I created this science around it of what does it mean for us to interact with these speculative plants, like senses. We think we have 5 senses, but for me, again, as I mentioned before, it's tapping into your intuition. We are taught these things, but that's not the full truth. We really don't know so much about the world. So to play around with what we think the might world is a really fun space for me. So I do a lot of pseudoscience of, I created these plans. I'm thinking about all the other senses that they might impact us with. And then I also created this sort of geomancy, again, into intuition. Geomancy is a form of divination. A lot of indigenous and like African and Eastern cultures, they use it where they use geomancy is like the earth. So you use parts of the earth. You might grab a bit of soil and then throw it and then derive a meaning from that. So for me, it's very much how can I just allow people to derive their own meanings from happenstance, from random things, and allow that to guide the way that they move forward in life. And so you derive meaning from the speculative plants. So it's a really fun book. We're publishing it later this year in probably a couple months, of just all this amazing and ideas of thinking about the future. And I think that's really important as a group of people that are when you're in a, many people consider, marginalized community, you don't really have that capacity because you're thinking so much about day-to-day life. Like a lot of us in here, we're thinking about how do we pay our bills? How do we just make sure that our family is okay, as opposed to thinking about the world that could exist that we would want to live in, not so much of what's happening right in front of us. So futures design is a really important practice, and I do that a lot with the Afrotopian community.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Vitaly, is there any community that you find yourself like really drawn to that's been important for you that you want to touch upon?
Sure. There are a few of them in Miami. Actually, there's Women in Tech that's run by Maria from Refresh. That's pretty awesome if, ladies over here would like to join. There are a couple of fashion communities as well. One's called Fab. It's run by, it originated in LA, and now they have a chapter in Miami as well. The other one is by Mana Fashion. So Mana Fashion and Mana Tech have combined something together, like combining fashion and technology. So they have a lot of events in Miami, and I'm a part of that too. But yeah, I mean, Miami has been changing so much. I mean, we are going to the moon now, so. Yeah, so I mean, these groups are pretty amazing, and they're for women. If anyone's interested offline, I can definitely share the information.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And Anna, yeah, I think it's really important that you can touch a little bit more on what you guys are doing at the Verseverse, and if you want to touch on any of the other communities that you're involved in that have been important for you.
Sure. So, the communities that have emerged online are almost just as powerful as the ones that can emerge IRL in real life in our cities or in our towns. And that's another aspect that I found of my experience in Web3 and being really active in it. That's been incredibly rewarding. So I'm a co-founder of a digital poetry gallery called the Verseverse, where we work really hard to onboard poets who have an established practice. So we have a Pulitzer Prize finalist, we have Guggenheim Fellows, we have Pushcart Prize nominees, and we pair them with digital artists. And then we offer these artworks as, obviously via Web3, via blockchain provenance. They're able to be transacted, and we offer them to collectors of digital art. And poets have been really surprised at, receiving money from their poems. It's really surprising. For example, I had a Pulitzer Prize finalist who's a poet in Miami. His name is Campbell McGrath. He's really loved in the local community. He's probably 70 or more, and we paired him with one of the top digital artists called Robness, and their work sold really, really well. And I wrote him. I'm like, did you set up your digital wallet? Are you ready to receive your crypto? Do you want PayPal? What do you want? And he had set up his digital wallet. And when I told him how much money he was going to get, he's like, that doesn't even seem right. I didn't do any of the work. And I'm like, of course you did. You've been writing poetry for 50 years, teaching poetry for 50 years. You're a Pulitzer Prize finalist. Like, you deserve this and more. So, I mean, these communities are really strong. And they're also, I feel like people just become really devoted to them. And so they start saying, hey, to their friends, come join this poetry gallery. Maybe you'll sell a poem, maybe not. But at the very least, your work will be exhibited in beautiful places. We've exhibited during Miami Art Week. For example, during Miami Art Week, we exhibited a collection called Poesía de Protesta. All poems by women, all poems of protest, all in Spanish. We applied for funding, which we received, and we were able to pay a Havana-based art historian to do all the curation. And I'm really happy to share that the second iteration, it did so well. It was so well received by the community in Miami and the local poets as well, that a second iteration is launching of Poesía de Protesta in April in New York during a few sort of Web3 native cultural event series that we'll be having.
Congratulations. That's amazing. And I know we spoke on Web3 equity, but please, let's get into it more. I mean, if you want to get, please, and I think it'd be awesome to just dive in deeper.
Yeah, well, I just talk about that, but I just wanted to invite you all to our first year anniversary. It's going to be on March 30th. Everybody's welcome. It's free. It's going to be an amazing celebration. Major Suarez is going to be there. He always supports us a lot. And if you want to come to the celebration, it's going to be in Coconut Grove, in the first airport of Miami called the Hangar. So everybody's welcome. You can come with everybody, tell whoever you want. So it's gonna be like a good way to know a little bit more about this Web3 community. Because it's a celebration. Although we're gonna have a few stations, if you need help with your digital wallet, like very basic things, so you don't feel overwhelmed. Like, you don't need to know anything about Web3. If you don't know anything and you come, even better, because you'll learn with us, and we're gonna be there. So everybody's welcome.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So as we're just coming to the end of our panel, but I did want to give everyone here a chance to provide one piece of advice that you would want to give to the girls in this room and just about working in technology and art and anything you want to say.
I would say I'm going to talk a little bit about this in the keynote later on, but I think when you follow what makes you most excited, it doesn't matter what challenges are thrown your way, you'll learn it. And that's the way that I learned coding the best. It made it the most exciting. When I followed something that I really, really wanted to do, anything that I needed to figure out, I learned how to do it. So I would say just follow your curiosity.
I would go off of that, just believing in yourself. I think that's very important. I don't think we should underestimate women. We need more women in technology for sure. So girl power, we need more of you in the tech world. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. She can go on the moon, and so can we, all of us. Let's do it together.
For me, it's just start. I even tattooed it on my wrist. It's here. Because at the end of the day, all you have to do is just start. Whatever it is, get going. Don't put it off. Yes.
And for me, do things even if they scare you. If they scare you, that's the path. Because every time I do something that scares me, it takes me so far. So, like, this is gonna be funny, but I only can say is close your eyes, aprieta las nalgas, and do it. I cannot translate that.
No, that's perfect though.
If you know, you know.
Exactly. If you know, you know. Well, now we'll open it up to Q&A. If anybody has any questions, we don't bite. Please ask away. I don't. I love when your daughter raises her hand. Let's see.
Can I have my water bottle back?
If she can have her water bottle back, which I believe is yes. Yes.
1 minute.
Hi, my question's for Ari. So I was like wondering, like, did you face any challenges when getting into the industry as a Black woman? Because I know like going into that industry, like it makes me like a little bit scared too, because I know that I'll face some challenges along the way.
Yeah, it's going to be filled with challenges. And I think those challenges, it depends on how you use them. You can use it to let it stop you and discourage you and feel like you don't belong, or you can use it as fuel. Not so much of like showing them like that, yeah, I can do it. It's more of just like, okay, you doubt me, but I see all these things and I know that this is a superpower that I have, that I'm well versed in areas that maybe you have no idea. So this is something I can bring into my work. And I think Aftertopia was very much of, as I mentioned, it was like an excitement about the possibilities of art and tech, but also a deep frustration of, this is how the world works. Like, this is how you all see it. And this, you're like, this is a deep level and adequacy of understanding race. So I think it's been great fuel for me to kind of figure out, how do I champion the voices that clearly aren't heard as much, but also I think it's like what I've been doing more now is not so much focusing on the traditional ways that it becomes a difficulty of, it's not so much for me about how do I prove to other people that just don't get it. It's more of, I'm not really as concerned. I'm in spaces a lot that are very dominant of whiteness and like Eurocentricity and all that. And for me, it's in being in those spaces, it doesn't really impress me. I often feel very underwhelmed because I value my own culture so much that for me, it's like when I'm in those spaces, okay, we get it. And there's so much that we can build in those spaces. So I think it's more of just, where are you placing your values, and are you valuing yourself and your own culture, and not letting the naysay stop you.
I actually want to touch on that a little bit. So I worked as an engineer at JP Morgan for a few years, and just in terms of stats, like obviously there are not a lot of women at JP Morgan, and there were, I think, only 2% of those women were Latin, and I was the only woman on my tech team initially, and I moved teams, and when it came time to hire, I had been there for a few years, so I actually had say, and that was, a really wonderful opportunity to be able to go find all my other Latin women that I knew who were really talented developers to come in and interview and be like, come in, like, let's do this. And then one of my best friends now. I was like her bridesmaid. She ended up working with me, and we had this amazing kind of camaraderie of like these like, just two Latin women again on this rather like male dominated team, but like we did make an impact, and we were able to do a lot of really great work together and do a lot of really cool things. And she ended up staying there and also being able to hire another woman to join the team. And there's this effect that happens when you kind of put yourself out there and bring the community together as much as you can. And there's like, it seems like a small change, but it does have a big ripple effect. So those were really, really fun years. So just wanted to, you can be like a little change in there, and it's fun. I had a really good time, and I will say my male counterparts were also very like respectful and kind, and I really didn't, there are positives there. So we had good times. So just wanted to say that.
Happy Saturday, guys.
Happy Saturday.
This goes for anyone that is willing to answer. What are some strategies you guys implement when it comes to onboarding people in the tech space, more so Web3 space, that are not in the Web3 space and either has never heard of it or is nervous about it or just has negative feelings about it? What are some strategies that you guys implement within your own practices?
Conversation is key. I think just always having the one-on-one conversations, I think, make the biggest difference. It's never Web3. Technology as a whole is really, I guess, it's scary at first. I remember the first time I took a look at code and I was like, what am I looking at? What is this? And I know how scary that can be. So being able to meet people where they are and just gradually hold their hand through it. And if it's something is like, even the conversation of like, the question of what is blockchain, like, is also really kind of hard to say in one sentence for someone to be like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's gonna be, it's a situation, but I think it will also come a point where, when we talk about the internet back in the day, it's not like we're not talking about server packets when I'm talking about using a website. You know what I mean? Like, we now use it in our day-to-day life, and it's very, very easy. And so I think we'll get to that point where we can kind of fly over the nitty gritty of how all of this stuff works. So it is important if you want to dive deeper, but it's again, just conversation and helping them in like the small things the small wins that you can do to help them get it, but understand that it'll probably take a little bit of time.
I'd answered that Web3 is so new, everyone's learning it together.
Yeah.
So there's no, set rules or a talent behind it. There are people who can code, but at the same time, everyone's kind of in it together, learning it together because it's so new. So don't be shy of, asking questions or being the new one in the room. And there are so many platforms, including Web3 Equity, for example, who's educating people on Web3. So yeah, I think it's a very exciting new field, including fashion. Fashion's getting on Web3. So
the world of digital fashion is
we've
big.
done some work around that, but it's been a slow, steady paced challenge.
I would also say that it's a lot more approachable than it might seem.
Yeah.
Like Web3 sounds intimidating just alone, but it's really not. It's like a lot of the people that are doing generative AI work or Web3 work, they're not even people that are touching code at all. Like a lot of it is just uploading things onto a website. So I think it's more of just figuring out what questions to ask, like finding someone who does that and just saying, how do I create a wallet? How do I upload my work? And that's it. That's all that Web3 is in a lot of ways. And a lot of generative AI stuff, it's more of just like using language. It's really just uploading language into a program that's doing all the processing, and then it's converting your language to something else. So I think it's more of just like who is doing it and just getting that foundational steps of how do you set yourself up to be able to upload that kind of work, and then you're a Web3 artist. Like it's very approachable.
Just to add to that, I think it's the opportunities, because it's new and there are no experts. There are really huge opportunities for those who are willing to dive in and learn and sort of take a risk. So I think that's really encouraging. You can point to so many, individuals who've had just doors open for just being there, for just participating. So I think that could also help, help with the naysayers.
No, I just add that when people ask me, what is that you're doing? What is that Web3? I just tell them it's the evolution of the internet. It's like the internet 2.0. It's new things, new tools you can do that you couldn't do before. So it's the future. So if they're interested, if they're curious, just you take time, just lead by your example and take time to take them and teach them if you're willing to do it. People are gonna get curious and gonna be wanting to join you, not only because it's something new, it's also because all these things that are happening that is are not happening anywhere else, just in Web3.
And if you're interested in talking about it more, I'm around after. So, yeah. Two more questions? Are there any more questions? We're open books. Yeah.
This question might like sound weird, but how did you guys start? Like, what you were passionate about? Like, what made you like step your foot like down and say, I'm gonna do this? Because I feel like that's kind of hard for me to like start something new or like start something I'm passionate. Like, what made you guys do that?
I can tell you're already ready to start. Like you have that excitement in you. So I think it's more of just like figuring out what is it that you want to do. Like anything that you want to do, and maybe it's you're interested in like what is something you're interested in?
I really like video game design or computer science, like
Nice.
AI.
Yeah. So there's this person named Dan Schiffman. He does a lot of the site Coding Train. Have you heard of the Coding Train?
No.
Okay, so
Coding
there
Train is the best.
The
yeah,
best.
he teaches at NYU with me, and he does a lot of different tutorials online on YouTube where it teaches anything that you can do with processing or P5. You know P5. Have you ever heard of that? Oh, P5 is a really great space to start. If you want to do art and code together, you just look up Dan Schiffman, Coding Train. Actually, just look up Coding Train and P5, and then do game design or like building a game or like Pac-Man or something. He probably has a tutorial on that. So I feel like just starting off doing the tutorials that he's doing and just watching the video and coding along with him, then you get the foundational, how do I code and create, I haven't coded in so long, so I don't even know the language around it, but like, how do I don't know, create characters and stuff like that. And then once you get those skills, then you can go off and start building your own games. But it's really just watching tutorials on the things that you're interested in and then building after that.
And it all comes together. I mean, I just anecdotally, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was growing up, and it was I was studying art history. I was doing a lot of different things in the arts, and I still wasn't like fully fulfilled. I kind of serendipitously took a free coding class here at Miami-Dade that really unlocked so much curiosity and really got me fascinated with the history of art and computers, and then diving into that, and I don't know, just like following the breadcrumbs and like the little things that pique your interest, like they all come together, and just have fun exploring. Right now you're at the perfect age to just explore, and it all just come together. Honestly, just trust that process.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say to her that because I know it can be overwhelming, you don't know what to do. So for me, it was setting a goal. A small step, like, oh, I would love to be in that exhibition. How do I do that? Who's exhibiting there? So find people. I know the gaming industry is a lot on Twitch and Discord. Find a community on Discord, and you're gonna connect with other girls that also want to do what you want to do. So if you do find somebody that helps you go in that direction, so you don't feel that scared, and always show your work, show what you're doing, because you never know who's watching, who's going to give you that opportunity.
One more question. Do we have any? Oh.
She wants
The water bottle. We got a water bottle.
There's a local curator called Tam Green who's really wonderful, and she's got a great quote that says that Web3 is like the internet and your bank had a baby.
Oh, thank you for that. We did have one more question in the back. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you for being here. My question is, what's the worst advice you were ever given, and how did you unlearn it?
The worst advice we've ever been given, and how did we unlearn it?
I had that. I'm sorry for the men in this room, but I was given an advice early on that girls can't code. Get a man to do the coding, and I'm like, I am an engineer. I can code. So how did I? And that comment and advice was given by a man, of course. So if you have to have a thick skin, I would say, in this game. Never be shy of what you're doing and going off what Amma said. Believe your worth and move forward with conviction that you can do it.
I think one of I guess on that note, I did have someone comment on it was like one of my first boardroom meetings, and someone at the end really commented on my accent, like that my Miami was I don't know, and to kind of work on that. And I was like, no. No, and I was like so annoyed by it, but I kind of just like, again, that's why it was really important. Like, the next time I hired someone, I was like thinking about building out the team. I was like, okay, where are my other Latinas at? Because like we're not like, this isn't an issue. It's such a non-issue. So that was the worst piece of advice I ever got, and I completely ignored it. So yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming. This is really great, and thank you all so much, amazing panelists.